Welcome back. Well, the divisions within the newly formed coalition government are being seen as a serious setback to the smooth transition of democracy after 8 years of military rule. Well, after they won February's elections, both the Pakistan People's Party, the PPP, and the Pakistan Muslim League, the PMLN, promised to restore the judges, but they haven't agreed on how this should be done. If Musharraf gives in to pressure to reinstate the judges, that could lead to him making yet more concessions and possibly weaken him further. Musharraf's worst nightmare is a reconstituted Supreme Court that could rule his re-election and the state of emergency as unconstitutional. The current judicial crisis has become one of Musharraf's biggest domestic headaches. So where does he go from here? Well, joining us again in Multan, Baba Sattar, in Islamabad, Ahmed Raza Kasuri, and in Dubai, Javed Malik. Baba Sattar in Multan, isn't the main issue here that the coalition can't agree on the mechanism to reinstate the judges? I mean, that's the first step that needs to be taken, isn't it?
I think they did agree initially. There was a Murray declaration signed by the coalition partners, and they did agree that the judges are going to be restored through a parliamentary resolution and then through an executive order. That resolution, that agreement was not respected. It was not executed, and that's the problem. That's why we saw PMLN, one of the major coalition partners, leave their cabinet positions. The fear of the lawyers really is that this isn't really a disagreement over modalities. This is really a disagreement over the principle or the intentions of the current leadership of PPP, which is being headed by Asif Ali Zardari, the husband of Benazir Bhutto. That's the real fear, because the steps taken by PPP so far, if they'd already agreed to certain things, they made certain promises which they did not uphold, and then they've given a constitutional package which, if goes through, would literally amount to making the judiciary an appendage of the executive for all times to come. So looking at that constitutional package, looking at the foot dragging that Asif Ali Zardari has been doing on the issue, it almost seems that under the garb of modalities, it's basically that Asif Ali Zardari doesn't wish to reinstate Iftikhar Chaudhry and the other deposed judges back to the Supreme Court, because they have a Chief Justice right now, Justice Dogar, who's doing everything that the government and Asif Ali Zardari would probably want him to do right now.
Let's put the issue of the coalition to Javed Malik there in Dubai. I mean, how much of a setback to Pakistan's democracy is the crisis within the coalition? I mean, both parties held talks in Dubai and London, but it seems to be going nowhere.
Well, first of all, I think that both the major parties who are in coalition government agree that the Chief Justice and all the deposed judges have to be restored. What our friend in Multan said, obviously, is that the modalities of how it may be done. The People's Party considers this to be an issue which is of paramount importance, of constitutional nature, and they've introduced, or rather they are in a process of introducing a constitutional order, a constitutional package rather, which is going to be aimed at restoring the Chief Justice as well as the deposed judges, and make certain other provisions, thereby restricting further military interventions to the country. On the other hand, the Muslim League N, which is Nawaz Sharif's party, have a different view, which is, of course, one cannot deny that there has been a setback when the Bourbon Declaration or the Murray Declaration was not adhered to. But this is a momentary lapse, perhaps, and hopefully this matters will be resolved. And that is why we are seeing this march, which is being taken part primarily, in addition to the lawyers, by the PMLN, and as well as there are reports that certain People's Party members of Parliament may also take part. So there is no disagreement that they have to be restored. It's just how that it happens.
Ahmed Raza Kasuri, what do you think the coalition's next move should be to somehow bring some form of agreement in terms of how they should restore the judges?
Let me tell you at the very outset that Mr. Nawaz Sharif is not interested in the resolution of this problem, because he knows that if once the problem is sorted out, the lawyers will go back to their homes and to their courts, and there will be none on the streets. He is being heard talking among his cronies that this was not his election. His election is a future election. So he wants to create a hype in the country and build up this issue beyond limits, and to create a problem for the country and ask for a midterm election. And by making himself popular and riding on the high tide of this issue, he would like to snap the elections, midterm election. Well, that is his strategy, and probably Asif Ali Zardari understand this strategy in a very clear term. That's why, although they call themselves a coalition government, one is looking towards the north, other is looking towards the south. There is no understanding, and as such, what stops them to resolve this issue? It will take hardly one day to resolve this issue of judges who they want, but Asif Ali Zardari understand that Nawaz Sharif is looking for a situation where he can cash the uncertain conditions of the country and ride over the high tide which is being created by the lawyers. And that is the thing which is being understood by People's Party. And that is the why the president say, all right, if you want to dislodge me, bring the impeachment resolution, and president is very strong. And as far as these judges are concerned, they are spent a force. I mean, a sergeant in the army is much more powerful because at his command, at least 4 people will fire. But on these judges are neither, these generals are neither here nor there. They have had a very joy ride with the General Pervez Musharraf.
Let's bring him back, Javed Malik. Let's bring him back, Javed Malik in Dubai. I mean, Ahmed Kasuri there seems to be saying that the divisions within the coalition are huge. He said north and south. I mean, how much of these divisions played into Musharraf's hands, do you think? Can he use these divisions to his advantage in any way?
Well, he would like to, and from what we, when we interact with the opposition, or rather with the government now, they do talk about certain conspiracies being hatched here and there. Certainly, those in the presidency would like to see the coalition divided, but I think both Asif Ali Zardari and Nawaz Sharif are fully aware that they cannot afford to enter into a kind of a confrontation with each other. They both realize that the stakes are too high. We all remember what happened in the 80s, and both of them have learned from that and moved on. The option is not there. If these two popular leaders are going to enter into a confrontational attitude, the only person going to be benefiting out of that will be dictatorship and perhaps Mr. Musharraf. And I think neither Mr. Zardari nor Mr. Nawaz Sharif want that to happen. So there is a bit of a difference in terms of how the judiciary has to be restored, but all the sounds that are coming out of both the parties are of the view that it will happen. The constitutional package, which is aimed at restoring the Chief Justice and the deposed judges, is actually already in draft form and undergoing a consultative process. So it's just a matter of time when this constitutional package is introduced, and once that is introduced, it can pass through Parliament. And on the other hand, you also have a possibility of impeachment. And of course, if that happens, that would, of course, spell a lot of problems for Mr. Musharraf.
Baba Sattar in Multan, I mean, President Musharraf is armed with the power to sack the government if necessary. I mean, how risky a move would that be if he feels threatened by a reconstituted judiciary?
That would be troubling, but the power that you're talking about has only been used when the military wanted that power to be used. If you look at Pakistan's political climate right now, the army has made a decision that it wishes to withdraw because that's in Pakistan Army's institutional interest at this point. And therefore, without that kind of backing, it'll be suicidal for General Musharraf to use that power because nobody is going to actually abide by his instruction. The problem that the coalition, the fundamental difference between PPP and PML, and when we talk about it, one of the problems with the constitutional amendment approach is that then gives General Musharraf a veto over the constitutional amendment process because PMLQ, which was called the King's Party previously, has a significant number in the Senate, which is the upper house. In order to bring a constitutional amendment, you need a 2/3 majority in both houses separately. The coalition partners do not have that kind of number in the Senate, and without getting PMLQ on board or some of the other erstwhile allies of General Musharraf, you cannot actually amend the Constitution. Then there's also the associated problem that if you try and restore the judges through a constitutional amendment, you're admitting that the constitution that was amended by General Musharraf and the fact that the judges were fired by him was a constitutional process, and in order to undo that, you need to bring a constitutional amendment. Those are the fundamental problems with the constitutional amendment approach, and that's what this movement, the rule of law movement, is protesting against, that we don't want to go the constitutional route because A, it's going to take a very long time for a constitutional amendment to be actually brought through and discussed in the parliament, and secondly, it's wrong in principle.
Okay, I wanted to ask Javed Malik in Dubai a final question. We talked briefly about the Pakistani army earlier on. I mean, the army seems to have distanced itself from all the political dramas going on in Pakistan. Is it likely to stay in barracks, do you think, as the pressure piles up from the protests on Musharraf?
General Ashfaq Pervez Ghani, who is the current Chief of Army Staff, has earned a lot of respect for himself by distancing himself from the political process. Amongst some of the first decisions that he made was to call back all the serving officers who were in civilian postings. That was very much appreciated, and his role in terms of keeping a very balanced and neutral stance on the issue and not letting himself be dragged into the political process is being widely appreciated, and people do look up to him in terms of restoring the lost image of the armed forces. And I would also say that I don't think that will happen, and neither the possibility of the 58 2B amendment, which President Musharraf may exercise a power to dissolve parliament. I do not believe that he has the moral authority, neither the support from the army or the other establishment forces to do that.
Right, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Javed Malik in Dubai, Ahmed Raza Kasuri in Islamabad, and Baba Sattar in Multan. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We, of course, welcome your comments and your suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. From the whole team here, goodbye for now.